grabando un stream al momento del terremoto, que lo tomó por sorpresa y por el cual decidió salir del lugar en el que se encontraba. Otro de los videos que muestran cómo se vivió el movimiento telúrico fue el que compartió Andrew Symes a través de su cuenta de Twitter. En las imágenes se observa a Andrew junto con dos niños, que aseguró eran los hijos de sus amigos, y algunos perros. Los niños parecen estar escribiendo cuando el terremoto los toma por sorpresa. En otra de las grabaciones que se ha hecho viral, se ve el interior de una oficina, al momento en el que ocurre el siniestro. El video muestra a un joven parado debajo del marco de una puerta mientras intenta sostenerse ante el movimiento. Luego de unos segundos, se ve como las luces del lugar se apagan ante el terremoto. Varios de los habitantes de Grecia y Turquía vivieron el terremoto dentro de sus hogares. En un video se observa una
The best morning routine for
Estas 3 hierbas simples descubiertas en Huaxi en China son capaces de inhibir la presión arterial. Atacan directamente un órgano oculto en el
Derrumbes, ventanas rotas,
Excellent morning, everybody. We are live transmitting the morning conferences of Mr. Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador. Please let me know if the volume is okay, and we'll start in just a few seconds. Thank you for being here once again. Don't forget to join our other websites. You got the link down in the description. Linktree. You got AZTECRON Entertainment, where I am translating everything to do with Garcia Luna. So,
ánimo.
good morning, he
Estamos
says.
comenzando la
We are
semana
starting the week,
y
and
nos va a ir muy bien.
we're going to be doing good. All of us, we're going to be doing all right.
Hay que tener mucha fe.
Let's have a lot of faith.
Bueno, pues vamos a
So,
informar.
we're going to be informing,
Primero,
first of
como
all,
siempre,
as we always do,
quién es quién en los precios.
the who is who on the
Después,
pricing,
sobre la ayuda
and then
humanitaria
about the humanitarian
a
assistance
Chile,
to Chile,
a Turquía, a Siria.
Turkey, Syria,
Y el tercer tema es
and then
el
the
informe
third
que se da
topic
también
is
los
the
lunes sobre el
information
avance
that is given
de
on
la construcción
Mondays
del Tren Maya.
of the advancements
Y al
of the
final,
Tren Maya construction, and at the end,
Otros videos
the other
que
videos
se presentan
that are
los
presented
lunes.
on
Y
Mondays.
posteriormente abrimos para
And
preguntas
after
y
that, we'll
respuestas.
open up for
Entonces,
questions and
vamos
answers.
con Ricardo Schiff.
So let's go with Ricardo Schutz.
Buenos días, señor presidente. Muy buenos
Good morning,
días
Mr.
a todas y a
President.
todos ustedes.
Good morning to
¿Quiénes
everybody.
tienen el precio de
Who
los
is who in the
combustibles?
combustible
Tenemos
pricing?
que
We
con
have to,
corte el 9 de febrero,
up
el precio de la
to
mezcla mexicana
9th
de
of February,
petróleo fue de
the pricing
$68
of the
con 21
Mexican
centavos de dólar por
oil
barril. Por tanto, el incentivo
is,
fiscal en esta semana para la gasolina
for
regular
the
es de
fuel, regular is
49.5%, el incentivo
49.5%.
fiscal a la premium
The
de
fiscal incentives
28%
is
y el
28% on
incentivo
that,
fiscal al
and
diésel de
the fiscal incentive for the diesel is
52.4%. El
52.4%.
promedio la semana
The
pasada del
average
litro
last week
de
of the
regular,
liters of
22
regular
pesos
is
con 2
22
centavos.
with
El
2
promedio de
cents,
la premium,
and the
24
premium
pesos con
average was
17 centavos
24.17
y 23 pesos
Mexican
con
pesos, and
55 centavos
23.55
el promedio
the
del
average
diésel.
of
Las
diesel.
tres marcas más
The three
careras la
most
semana
expensive of
pasada,
last week
Redco,
was
Oxogas y
Recco, Oxogas,
Petro7.
and
Estas
Petro
dos
7.
cadenas ahora se nos
These two
treparon a
chains
las
were
más caras.
really
Oxogas
going all the way
y
up,
Petro
Oxogas
7
and Petro 7.
normalmente estaban
Normally
a la
they
mitad
are
de la
half that
tabla,
price,
y las más
and the
económicas, las
most economical
aliadas de los
ones, the
consumidores, la semana
ones
pasada
allied to
fue
the
Rendy
consumers were
Chicas,
of last week was Rende
G500
Chicas,
y Total.
G500, and
Vamos a ver
Total.
ahora por
We will
regiones
see
y
per
tomando en
region,
cuenta el
and taking into
margen,
account the
tenemos que la
margin,
más cara es de
we have that the
Valero
most expensive is
en
Valero
Zapopan,
in Zapopan,
Jalisco, un
Jalisco,
precio al público
and
de 24 pesos con
with
26
24
centavos.
pesos
Y
and
estos sí
26
se
cents.
pasaron de rosca
They
con
really
su
went up on
margen,
that one with
5
that margin
pesos
of 5
con
pesos
22
with
centavos
22
de
cents
margen. Es el
of
margen
margin.
más
That's
alto
the
que
highest
me ha
margin
tocado
that
ver
I've
desde
gotten
que
to see since
presentamos
we are
los
presenting
precios.
these
Yo no sé qué están
prices.
pensando
I'm not
estos
sure what they're
señores.
thinking, these guys.
De franquicia
Of
Pemex,
Frankie,
vean la diferencia
franchise
de
Pemex,
15
we can see the
centavos de
difference of
margen, es la
15
más
cents of margin.
económica en Tuxtla
It's the
Gutiérrez,
most
Chiapas,
economical one
21
in
pesos
Chiapas.
con 8
And then we have a
centavos.
21 pesos with 8 cents on that
En
one.
el caso de la Premium, la
In the
más
case of the
cara es de
premium type
Shell.
gas, is the
La
most expensive one
encontramos
is
en
from Shell
Irapuato,
in
Guanajuato.
Irapuato. Guanajuato, with my paisans, Guanajuato, they're giving it out to 25 cents with 99 cents. A large margin, but not too high that we've seen for that regular pricing in Valero, which is 3.35 pesos of margin. Compared to the 18 cents of Pemex franchise in Puebla, that has, in consequence of a lower price of 22.63 pesos. In the case of the diesel, the most expensive one with the largest margin, it's from Mobile, which normally they have good prices. They've been showing themselves as allies of the consumers, but this Mobile in Coahuila, Monclova, has the diesel for 25.89, and they have it because they got a margin of 63 cents. So they went really high last week. These 15 cents in margin compared to Franquicia Pemex in Lázaro Cárdenas, who was the least expensive. 50 fine. I'm not sure why they like that, since at the end of the day they're gonna be verified, and for all the independencies vinculated to the government, federal government, SEACRE, and accompanying of the National Guard, I hope that they can do us a big favor to comply by the law and let us verify them and avoid any problem. The cheapest one is 20 pesos and 15 cents in Tonalá, Jalisco. The Brimstone from Guadalajara, Jalisco, one of them in Valero, so that you can see the difference in between one that gives a good price and others that just go over. The most expensive is 24 pesos with 77 Pemex. This one that is really expensive, but another one in Valero, 24.18 in Zapopan, Jalisco. But the most cheapest ones are 21 and 78 cents from Pemex in Islahuan, Veracruz, and 22 pesos with 19 cents in G500. Among the most expensive, 26.99 from Shell in Naucalpan, Estado de Mexico, and 26.66 from Pemex in Talpa de Allende, Jalisco. And the cheapest ones for the diesel are 20.99 in Valero, Pachuca, and 21.50 in Pemex, Cadereyta, Jimenez, Nuevo León. The most expensive there in Durango, 25.89 from Pemex, and Oaxaca, Villa de Tututepec, 25.79 from G500. We are continuing to revision the sanitary and services, that they are clean, and preference that the restrooms are not charged, they're not being charged, and that they're clean. We are also can see the pricing. The average pricing every day was the 20 pesos with 50 cents, and last week the average in the 120 regions was 20 pesos and 50 as well for gas cylinders. You can see how this average continues more than 2 pesos under the international average, and that the same date, 8th of February, national pricing is 12 pesos with 30 cents, and the national gas was 11.07. We still have good places that are giving cheap prices, And in the case of Sociedad Cooperativa in La Allende, Coahuila, that has it at 10.50 when the maximum is 11.13. It's almost a peso under. And there's other examples in Jalisco, Veracruz, Estado de Mexico, and Nuevo León. In the case of cylinders that gives cheap prices from the maximum prices, GUTEP from Zapotlanejo, Jalisco at 20.71. When the maximum price of that area is 21.50. We also have some examples in Estado de Mexico, Veracruz, and Guanajuato as well. We realized 823 visits and verifications, and we had 7 infractions. One of the weighs, or the weighing systems, was canceled, as well as a 3.5% of cylinders in bad condition. Don't forget to check the bottom part of the cylinder that is rusted. Please do not receive those by the handler or the provider. There are more providers everywhere. There's not only one. So let's see the rest of the 24 products of the basic food consumption, and the most expensive one in the Zona Centro, or the center, Walmart Express in Álvaro Obregón, here in Mexico City, had the 24 products in 1,035.20 pesos. And the most cheapest option was the same 24 products, Soriana Hiper, in Querétaro, at 918.70 pesos for the basic consumption needs. Last week in the center zone, the most expensive one was Durango's Central de Abasto. A few months ago, that they decided to be the most expensive, 1,042.60 pesos. And meanwhile, the cheapest one was Mega Soriana in Guadalajara, Zapopan, Jalisco, at 918.30. In the northern zone, the most expensive one was Central de Abasto in Monterrey, Nuevo León, at 1,128 for the 24 items of the basic need food supplies. And the cheapest one in Chihuahua
had the package
at 913.10. And to finish up, in the southeast location, in Central de Abasto, Mérida, Yucatan, is the most expensive one. And we are talking about 1,114.27 pesos of the 24 items for a family of 4. That is a whole week. And meanwhile, Soriana is still an ally of the consumers at 855. Matter of fact, the cheapest one all throughout the country, 855 with 0.40. Good for Soriana. And now we're talking about the sending money from the U.S. to Mexico, and we got the Paisan heroes from the U.S. They remitted dollars to their families in Mexico, and not only monthly but annually, all the registries of years prior. You can see in the graph how this has been in continuous influential inbound sending of money, And the best way to send in cash in that month was ULIN, was that for the $350, which is the average money sending from the US, it was 6,611.50 because there was no commission charge, and it was one of the best money exchange with 18.87 exchange rates. And for the worst one was Pagafon Smart Pay, that gave us 6,385 with 20. It charged a commission of $10, very high, one of the highest, and a low rate exchange of 18.78. Ulink as well being the best one throughout the countries at 6,611.50, which was the average, 18.89 as the exchange rate, and the worst was Cloud Transfer Services at 1878 exchange for 6,385.20 on the average. Tomorrow being the St. Valentine's, please give affection, don't purchase it. Nice recommendation of the specialist here. Well, so before we continue, we can say that Mara Lezama is here. So we continue that we have her here with us from the humanitarian assistance that we have. With your permission, Mr. President, good morning, Governor, invited secretaries. When it comes to the situation in Turkey, Syria, we have considered now that, of course, that the earthquake in that region is the worst that we have recollection of in the last century. There are a little bit more than 35,000 dead, 85,000 injured, of whom 31 and 36 are from Turkey and the others from Syria. Mr. President has instructed us that in relation to Syria, we established contact with the UN, which was done, and Mr. President has deposed of a contribution of $6 million that will be deposited until we get the bank account, depending on an office that, from the UN in charge of the humanitarian services. Of course, they've been there for a few days, and these numbers that I just gave you are confirmed from the ONU to give us an idea of the impacts of Turkey and Syria. So we're going to be doing that deposit tomorrow as agreed. And when it comes to the Secretary of Defense in Turkey that is helping us out, and starting tomorrow the conversation between ELN and the Colombian government. That's why I am going to leave soon. In those talks, Mexico is one of the facilitators to look for dialogue in between the parties, solicited from Colombia and the ELN. ELNE. Thank you very much. With your permission, Mr. President, today we're going to be informing about the assistance, humanitarian assistance in Chile. On the first spreadsheet, we see the way that is integrated. These mixed combatant 13 elements, 10 brigades working in 6 different areas. two regions in Chile. The results of the next one that we've had in these last 6 days of work, they've evacuated 123 people to safe locations. They've given 151 medical checkups. That there is 600 acres have been turned off. From safety areas, more than 200 kilometers, so that the fire doesn't continue, and as well as they have isolated 600 homes so that there is not permitted for the fire to hit them, and they have covered 769 kilometers of the areas that they are attending to. Here we have a few pictures of that work that the humanitarian force is concluding, and on the videos of that same performance. And about the humanitarian assistance in Turkey, the first spreadsheet is the confirmation of the force. To remind you, 93 members of Defense, Secretary of Defense, 37 of the Marines, 15 of the Red Cross, and 5 from Public Relations that were transferred with a Air Force plane to Turkey. Unfortunately, we lost one of our K9 units, Proteco, of the National Secretary of Defense. Proteo was his name, a few days ago. We have a video here from the works that are being done currently, and a video where you can see the information of all the activities that are being performed in the last days, and an accumulation of what the force has done. If we can continue with the video. The Mexican delegation of humanitarian unit. I am General Jose Luis Ros Cañon, and I am with the Secretary of Defense of Mexico, integrating the group of humanitarian assistance of the government of Mexico that is assisting Turkey with the situation of the earthquake in Turkey and the southeast region. This group is integrated with Secretary of Defense personnel, Secretary of Marine, and Red Cross. The results obtained in this time are 1 person rescued with signs of life, 14 bodies recuperated of dead remains or dead bodies, 23 medical consultations, 14 square meters of debris, of a total up to date of 4 people alive that were rescued, 29 bodies of remains, dead people, 72 medical consultation, 41 square meters of debris removed, and 3 tons of various material that we received for assistance. And that's how the representation of the peoples of Mexico have shown their solidarity with the people that are affected for this natural disaster in the region of Turkey. And that is it, Mr. President. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for joining in, and hope that you join all our websites. As we always do in this day, the southern section is in Quintana Roo and extends with 67.7 kilometers from Playa del Carmen to Tulum. In every one of these locations of Tren Maya will be with stations of arrival and departure in Tulum locations and Playa del Carmen. The fifth southern section is exceptional because a large percent will be elevated. It will be to protect the green areas, cenotes, caverns, and subterranean lakes. In this specific way, the bridge Adelantado is 42.7 kilometers long, which will be assisting of the Tramo del Jaguar. There's going to be 1,464,000 square meters of balastro or beams, also different types of beams of 241 tons, and vehicular passes such as bridges, as well as a substation for tractors that is part of the works to give sufficient power to the train Maya and security to the Yucatan Peninsula. The employee jobs generated up to now are more than 6,500 work or jobs created. With the archaeological sites, there are Tulum and Muyil, aside from rescuing and conserve 4 new sites: the cave Garra del Jaguar cave, Manitas cave, where they're painting rural paintings, Ocho Balas cave, and the archaeological complex denominated Pamul II. The protection of the richness of the archaeological situation, it goes hand in hand with the environmental protection. So that's why the fifth section includes the opening of the National Park of El Jaguar. That's more than 1,000 acres will save the green areas that adds into the reforestation program of Sembrando Vida. On the fifth Mayan train section will open the doors to the greatness, the humanitarian greatness of the southeastern Mexican region. That is all, Mr. President. Good morning to all. The fifth southern section is 3 sub-location. Moteque, Mexico, it responds the fifth location, A, that has a longitude of 37 kilometers and a mixed structure in between viaducts or different viaducts with their length. And the longitude of the viaducts that correspond to the section A is of 18 kilometers and 760 kilometers, allowing that to have premises, a very important premises of the social works, but more important of the green areas. This solution, a mixed solution that we all have, the fifth section, allows an interaction that is really based on geophysical areas that exist in the context of the fifth section of the bottom of the floor. The structure will constitute from 7.5 meters as well as 5 metal locations per every 5 meters. We can see the construction and the finishing of part of the viaduct, as well as the constructive procedure, as we are seeing here. A substantial amount of equipment and human or manpower, so that we can finish this engineering works of highest specification, technical specifications. Works like these, with these characteristics of specific technical works, requires equipment of human labor that is really motivated, trained, a significant number that is prepared, because we are working 24/7. So, the generation of direct or indirect jobs in the A, fifth section, we have now 6,500 jobs generated within, most of them are technical, and a training that generates compliance of the best laws of security and training in the world. And that's why we need to install a location where, in that location, we can permit ourselves that these people and our collaborators can have all the conditions of hygiene and security and trust and training sufficient, so that we can maintain the motivation, their focus, and their energy in the compliance of this works of this magnitude. We also have a camp of 1,500 people. We have a constant shift from 7 days per week. That requires a joint works of equipment that is more than 500 equipment that we have in this 27 kilometers that we're working on. These equipment that are more than 500 are composed by closely to 28 diggers of great dimension, more than 1 meter and 50, 10 meters and 50. It means to work 28 diggers, we need more than 300 specialized operators to work that equipment. We got more than 60 cranes, and we have more than 67 removal vehicles for concrete, 11 concrete pumps, 18 excavators, 24 tractors, 21 motor conformer equipments, more than 500 in equipment that has to be in a logistical operation with a great quantity of insumes that are all made in Mexico. We have things that we have to remember. We have more than 200,000 tons of cement. We have more than 1,700,000 square meters added and or to be made. More than 112,000 tons of iron, 400,000 square meters of metal beams, 128,000 square meters of rail, and we have 97,483 pieces of the dormant metal pieces. All of this is to have a finished product of the structure that will be built on site. As we can see in the images, that it's being constructed on site without having any affection on the tourism realm of the zone that we are working on, where we have more than 6,280 pieces of beams, 41,920 pieces of pre-made concrete pieces, 1,049 pieces of headers, 786 pieces of diaphragms, 1,048 pieces of cemento created pieces, and 3,147 pieces of concrete footing. For each of those, workers that are working around the clock is creating one by one, by hand, and are the creators of this works. There are no works that does not permit us to accomplish our social works, and that's why the Section 5 South has different greenhouse plants production for this area as well. Sorry, I had to slow that a little bit because he was speaking a little bit fast with the numbers, but we'll continue. Good morning to everybody. So in the fifth section, South section, is 100% Mexican companies with experience in the construction of viaducts of more than 250 kilometers already constructed, amongst others. Grupo Inde is a founded company for more than 25 years with a lot of experience in these types of projects. The fifth location and the A section and the B section has 27.5 kilometers long. Up to date, we are generating 5,600 jobs created indirectly and direct and indirect. 80% of the manpower is from the region, as well as we are training all the people so we can have the operators necessary to make these movements possible. Up to date, in the site, we have more than 450 equipment of specialized operations so that we can have a good compliance for the required works. In this section B, we're going to need more than 4,000 pre-made cement works, more than 650,000 square meters of footing, 73,000 of concrete units, 106,000 square meters of beams, as well as 88,000 of meters of rail. In this section, there is some works in particular specific that is called Puente Atirantado, Garra de Jaguar, which was an area that was found there where the elongated bridge has more than 266 meters, lineal-meters of distance. We are also wanting to show you a few images of the objective ways that the bridge is going to finish up that we are working on right now. It's a beautiful bridge, by the way. That should be all, Mr. President.
Buenos días a todos.
Good morning to everybody, Mr. President. Thank you. The part of the fifth section, C, is a section of 19.7 kilometers. As was explained before by Mr. Pereira, it has a 19.97 kilometer distance, and it has a capability that obligates the construction of many viaducts or freeways that we can create in a viaduct. It also includes 9 vehicle passages and of the animals around and in the station of Playa del Carmen. This connects Playa del Carmen with Puerto Abertura in the Quintana Roo section. We also have a pre-made plant that will be the one that where we are going to be producing all these structures for the viaducts. In this section, we've generated 5,000 employment, direct and indirect jobs, and we've given training to all the workers that are backing us up for this section. In this section, we're also going to be using 422 major heavy equipment units, as well as we've been constructed at the end. Once constructed, we have put more than 1 million square meters of dirt and land, 163,000 of beams, 3,000 square meters of concrete, 96,000 iron beams. As well, we are looking into the rescue of green sections. We've rescued more than 3,600 plants and 26,000 different animals of the area, and we are constructing more than 1,000 new plants that we're going to be using for rehabilitation of 10 acres of the terrain. That's good information, I think. With your permission, Mr. President. Very good morning to everybody. We are going to speak about the manufacturing as well as the section of the 5th location. We have some images of the Sagun plant. This plant has more than 460,000 square feet. This means that it's the biggest production plant in America and the 3rd in the world when it comes to acres. We were speaking about this earlier, whether it was a lot or a little bit, but so you can get an idea, it's about 300 baseball fields. This really helps us a little bit more as to understanding the length. We have 5 mines of production, 2 of them in the Mayan location, and I want to share a quick video so you can understand more of this marvelous construction plants. Sagun City in the Hidalgo state is one of the sites more emblematic of construction of railways and trains. Since 1998 to 2015, we've constructed more than 2,000 locomotives. As well, it's one of the sites that is the biggest in the country, with 464,515 square meters. And the site of Sagun includes a school of welding, 5 shops, and 6 different school areas that will create new welding jobs and welding personnel. The construction in engineering, design, industrial design, and orthodox that define the parameters and instructions of the personnel of production. And from there, the primary manufacturing of ensemblement of minor parts, the protection ensemblement, composed of Mexicans. It is specialized in the creating from iron to carbon, to aluminum.
Los procesos especiales más utilizados son soldadura.
The most used are welding materials, strengthening, superficial treatments, painting, gluing, torque, hook bolting, reinforcements, and crimpated. The trucks area produces the structures for the wheels, and posts are bogies created for each car. The equipment specialized section realizes a variety of mechanized works with high precision, high quality, and the highest level of finishing for the superficial areas. In the fourth and fifth sections, the specialists confirm the biggest sections for as are the cabins for the light trains. The last part is when the electrical components are added, as well as sub metal conductions as well after the static testing and dynamic testing are performed. In the quality laboratories, everything is tested in a way of measuring that is used in the sites. Tren Maya is in hands of experts. Well, this process of manufacturing, these are real images of this week of the process, mental process of ensemblement and equipment adding that we are having with the train. Last week, we turned in the first 4 trains that were received by Fonatur and all the organisms that are involved in this. We can see some of the images that are visible. These are some aluminum boxes. This permits us to have lightweight operations with a lot of energy consumption, least energy consumption, and manufacturing. We can see the bogie part, and it's a German approved technology that was imported to Mexico, and it is 100% of the bogie is being created in Mexico. This contributes to what we've always said, that is a train from Mexico made in Mexico. When it comes to the testing, this will be starting once we finish with all the painting and equipping of the trains. They will be turned in, the first 4 will be turned in on 8th of March, ready to go, and will be in the shop in Cochera, Cancun, the 8th of June. This next one is a composition. A lot of questions. How many parts does a train cart has? In this case, has more than 6,400 different parts. From these, there are more than 2,500 that are made completely in Mexico. We are talking about, in the case of the trains that have 4 trains, 4 wagons. Some have 4, some have 7, some of them are motorized, and some are towed. Some of the elements that we can see that are made by each train. The next one, when it comes to the shop and the parking structures, it is with more than 14.8 acres. This contributes so that we can have the sufficient space to be able to have the expansion and growth that we expect in the next few years. We have 12 different railways, or our tracks, which have one for the connection to the main track, 2 others to maneuver the trains around, and plenty others to switch from track to track. We also have some information of terraplane, the sanitary section. All this that contributes to the numbers that we're speaking about of a generation of employments, local employments, in part of the construction and of the operation that will be 24/7. Very good morning, Mr. President, Governor, partners of the cabinet, and of the companies that are constructing of this impressive project. Media, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the archaeological works, we are doing good. As you can see, we are combining the most sophisticated engineering with the recuperation and care of the patrimonial, archaeological patrimony, and of course the natural patrimony in this region of Peninsula de Yucatan. In the case of the fifth section in the south, we have concluded the archaeological prospect, meaning the identification of the locations that will be conserved and recuperated, and we have 50% of the works of excavation and recuperation of this archaeological material that we are finding bit by bit while we are digging. Up to date, we have registered up to 7,188 different structures of immovables or locations, and we have been able to recuperate many different archaeological sites, ceramics, figurines that are complete. 132 pieces of them, 8,878 fragments of ceramics that are being analyzed in the laboratories that we have installed for this same purpose. A digging and 588 associated human groups in the region that give us a lot of information, and mainly caves, grooves, and half-filled cenotes. In the bettering of the archaeological sites, the work that we are doing in that zone is outstanding in Tulum, in the Tulum Park, that at the same time forms a part of this great park, ecological, natural, that is the Jaguar Park. In Tulum, we are accomplishing investigation and conservation works of archaeological sites, developing a new location of interpretation, a small museum. We are also renewing the signalation of the sites, and we are building what is the center of attention to visitors, the booth and services, with the participation of the SEDATU. We are also going to open two different sites, archaeological sites in the north of Tulum, Nauyacas and Creceria, so we can have a better dispersion of the visitors in the location. Another archaeological zone that we are working is Muyil. There, the diagnostics have concluded of the conservation works in the locations of the zone. We are renovating of the signalization of the structure and the reconstruction of the booth and general services locations, including the parking for the visitors. And when it comes to this site that will construct a corridor or archaeological corridor incorporating this great cave or cavern that was speaking about before, called Garra del Jaguar, Cueva de las Manitas, and Ocho Balas. We are doing different works of conservation, investigation, and adequation of this location, We are also planting better ways on the archaeological site of Chelha, including the bettering of the services to the visitors. That is all, Mr. President. Good morning to all. With your permission, Mr. President and Governor, I'm giving the information of the environmental aspects of the location. We are doing a total of 3 subsections of the consortiums, approximately more than 60,000 kilometers, 60 kilometers in between the third, and what we have in the green area recuperation, 51,000 plants rescued with 87% of efficiency in the rescuing in vivero. In the case of manifesto in the environmental impact, tell you that in 7th of June was the consultation in Jacinto Park and the manifestation of the environmental impact in definitively it comes out in 22 of June. And when it comes to animals and plants, we have 2,137 different animals, 245 reptiles, 22 amphibious, 209 mammals. In total, 2,137. In natural protected areas, we had the protected area of Tulum Park since the 23rd of April of 81, but there was no managing program, which is what we're working on. And through the Mr. President, the area is declared protected area of animals and plants, which is the Jaguar location on the 27th of July 2022. This is 3 times bigger than is National Park of Tulum. Tulum Park is 664.32 acres, and in the case of protection of green areas, Jaguar is 1,200.79 acres. The next one, there's work permanently being done in actions when it comes to National Commission of Natural Area Protected Areas of the National Guard and other teams. There is a managing program for the Tulum Park area. There are an operation, conjoined operation with Guardia Nacional Copeque, and the integration of a team that is permanently going to be there, vigilancy, permanent vigilancy, and a collaboration convened in the sense that there is a space of growth and acknowledgement of the area. In the case of what is federal oceanic, this remembering that this is really close to Tulum, the national park, there's a walk on the 2nd of July 2021 with the Secretary of Marine, and what we have of these walks is more than 96 kilometers. We see the lining of the federal location of land of Tulum of 86.668 kilometers in length. This is publicized in the 1st of August 2022. Next one is Jaguar Park. I would like to enforce the importance of the environmental protection is through the systems that we have unique in this location that is provided with acknowledgement of sustainable tourism, the conservation of green areas and humedales or swamps. This area is a location for marine turtles that are leaving their eggs in the area, and we are protecting as well, allowing them to do so. We have recreational areas in the same spot. In a different spot, but in the area. And when it comes to mitigation of climate change, we add these natural locations, protect area, and we get a 0.09 million tons of carbon monoxide. The next one is to share a few of the advancements that we've been having in these spreading out of location. It is said that there's a connection between Tulum and the space of green spaces called Jawar, that also is known that from the people that go there. In the potential of mitigation due to power or electrification on the south side, we have a potential of movement of passenger 143 and cargo 0.022, which gives us a total of 0.165. And remember that this train will substitute the combustible vehicles for the movement of cargo and passengers. That's what this train is made for. Share as well that the Secretary of the Environmental Departments has ecological lookouts and helped out with CONACYT, but when it comes to through the Secretary of Development, Territorial Development, we do the regional section so we can space out the urban sections. So we are coadjuvating the urbanization to a minimum. That's all we have, Mr. President. Very good morning to everyone. Thank you who can see us through the websites, through Open TV. Very happy that for the people that work in the radio location today in the World Day of Radio. With your permission, Mr. President, almost a month and a half ago, the 22nd of December, people from Quintana Roo had the honor to be the location of the morning conference that will be the capital of our beautiful state, Chetumal, the first barrio, magical barrio, and the Mestiza Creole location, and there we're going to have a station of El Tren Maya. That day, Mr. President, in the name of Quintana Roo's peoples, to appreciate the investment that the government of Mexico is doing in our location. A humanitarian vision, a reflection of distributional options dedicated to equality and is closing the gap in our country. And of course, I'm talking about the train. And of course, that this investment is reflected on the people that come visit, on the people that work there, and especially of those communities that are so far away from generation to generation, have been this wonderful art of sewing shirts such as the one that I have on right now, of Cispichil, Servil, of carving wood. The Mayan train will give us opportunity so that the world can know these people, so that our artisans are known worldwide with an investment, a historical investment with the train Maya. We're going to give back the hope to our brothers, Mayan brothers, to the municipalities of the center of the south of Mexico, to the people that have less, very little, but that are worth more and deserve more. The investment that your government, Mr. President, is doing in the peninsula, and particularly in our state, Quintana Roo, for about 41 1,000 million pesos will be a breaking point of development for the well-being of social people, or social well-being for people. And that's what we're working in the state, so we can help out to articulate the productive projects, the organization with the production, the cooperative services, and small business owners in the southern location of that state. Right there, where this train will be passing through, in the interior of the state, and vinculate, put together of the demand of the industrial, that is tourism. We are also integrating a politics of the state that includes as well our islands. Tren Maya, we have to add an investment, a great investment, important international airport of Tulum that is being constructed in lands of Felipe Carrillo Puerto, and of course the investment of the Lina, more than 1,000 million pesos, that the world has a right to know. And now we're speaking of Diego de Pomuldos, Secretary of Environmental Secretary, about the park. There's always Ixcabal, Meco, Xantún, Cutzanca, and more. We will be integrating a new way of tourism, sustainable tourism, alternative, rural, and archaeological, that not only is coming from the growth aspect of everything, but I say clearly, the well-being, social well-being. Tren Maya, it doesn't only benefit Tabasco, but Chiapas, Campeche, Yucatan, Quintana Roo, and Mexico. It benefits as well to the rest of the people of the country, that we share the inheritance of this millennial civilization. Architectural monuments, language, and communities that reflect the splendor of the Mayan cultural up to date. This year, we will be receiving more than 21 million tourists. We have broken all the records this year, and we've broken them this last few years, but just so you can get an idea, we've had the same amount of passengers in December that in the International Airport of Cancun is the average. Nevertheless, almost all of them are there in Cancun, or are distributed to the Riviera Maya, and only a small, very small portion visits other locations of the state. Very few visits the beautiful places that we have in the south. Right there in Riviera of the Rio Hondo, in the churches, in the municipalities that have archaeological treasures, historical and cultural treasures, where there are localities, small localities, generally rural or indigenous from origins of the Mayan people. Very few know the Cueva of the La Serpiente Colgante in Jose Maria Morelos, or the weed marvelous artisans that we see in Arpichil, or many other places in the state. That's why the importance of the Tren Maya. This will be found by that. Tren Maya will give the opportunity to the artisans to know their talents and the marvelous things they create. That is why, and lots more, the importance of this train, with Cancun with the principal creator of passengers and center of the operations, the operating center of Tren Maya, will assist to substitute this economical model that is filled with a different equilibrium of economical growth and social development that will benefit communities like Novoxcan, like León Habitario, Puerto Morelos, Felipe Carrillo Puerto, as I said, is constructed the new International Airport of Tulum. The southern part of our state will receive a great push with the construction of Cabal and rehabilitation of Cabal, as Diego has said before, that will compete with the most principal destinations of archaeological locations in the world, without a doubt for millions of people that are anxious to discover the magical culture of Mayan people. Maybe get away from the city locations and the tourism center in Playa del Sol and the nocturnal life there. These are fundamental projects, fundamental to our state, with the concerns of the well-being and close the inequality, separatist situations, and a development for Quintana Roo, to whom are being added all these sectors from the authorities of Mayan people, social workers, original hotel owners, commercialist workers, men and women, people that are investing in this location with a conviction together that we cannot consider a success a millionaire tourism that is surrounded with poor people and a low paying wages. And without that, there cannot be a process without justice. With this train, there's going to be justice. We are going to shorten the gap of inequality. This doesn't allow anything else that, with the principles that for the well-being of everybody, first, the poor people. Yes, Mr. President, that orienting the destination of these different interests, above all the economical situation and the social status, it is not easy. We are confronting our state as well. A lot of resistance, forces that are against to the popular power, and they don't want to leave their privileges. And I want to say that with your example, Mr. President, it has been determined to be with our convictions and to keep fighting for the interest of the people. We don't want investment that only take away the richness of Quintana Roo, and the locations that are internationally known of Quintana Roo has to be done and be taken care of with the best education and the best health system, as well as best to recognize that aside from resistance, we found a togetherness to work together and with a profound transformation hope of accompanied with actions generates trust and a suppression of privileges. This year we will have the causes of the violences being imposed of the economical values. We will assign 2,000 million pesos so social works and programs, and we are also going to be using a fund that is for bettering the social area of the police and fixing the coordination with the armed forces that are always with us and we've always been helped by. And this unique train works, Tren Maya, we want to appreciate, Mr. President, for the 4 complementary works that you have going for great importance of our state: Boulevard Colosio, Distribuidor Vial Freeway of International Airport of Cancun, the bridge vehicular Bichute, and the amplification of the roadways in the area, as well as 2,000 million pesos have been turned in from the Mexican government in this last year. Mr. President, our government is walking together in the floor, is following your example, and will continue so that these works, like the Tren Maya, can help the tourism and help many other regions of the country, but as well so that we can see in the Quintana Roo people, starting from the women and from the least capable. I am sure that if we minimize the differences, if we speak, if we work in unity, putting always priority in human rights, we will write the best history in this history of Quintana Roo. And there, in those pages, without a doubt, will be Tren Maya. To all of you, I'll be waiting. We will be waiting for you in Quintana Roo, from southern parts to the north part of the state, and always with open arms. Thank you. A nice speech.
Dos videos. Es que el lunes
It's Monday, guys.
hay
He
bastante
says,
información.
so there's a lot of information. Train Maya, integral report of the 5th section, 13th of February 2023. The fifth part from Playa del Carmen to Tulum in the state of Quintana Roo through 67.7 kilometers of railway, electrified railway, passes through 2 municipalities and 6 locations of Riviera Maya, where passengers can take on and take off in 2 different stations, one located in Playa del Carmen and another one in Tulum. From total of the railways of the 5th section, 25.6 kilometers are made of special dirt and 42.1 are elevated, constructed with last generation to protect the bottom parts like cenotes, taverns, and subterranean waters. The elevated section will be supported from columns of bars constructed with security, with specialized material to impede the contamination of the bottom waters. The bridge adelantado with 250 meters where Tren Maya will be passing, safeguarding the cave known as Garra del Jaguar. The 5th section has more than 50 complementary works as passages of vehicles, roads, bridges, and a maintenance location for rehabilitation of the green parts, a tractor location to be connecting the Tren Maya with an electrical plant and give power security to Yucatan. The railway construction requires 1,464,000 of cubic feet, 240 iron metal bars, more than 6,000 direct work created with local forces, and through the bettering of archaeological zones, there are Tulum, Muyil are being protected, as well as we are working on the rescue and investigation of 4 different sites: Cueva Garra del Jaguar Cave, Manitas Cave, where there are rural paintings, and Ocho Balas, 8 Cave, and the archaeological complex Pamuldos. Whomever get off the Tren Maya can see and find these locations where the greatness of the cultural greatness comes together with the richness of cultural locations. In Tulum zone, the Jaguar Park is a surface of 1,000 acres to safeguard archaeological locations, the green fields, and better the visiting of tourism. To this same park, there's actions such as the program Sembrando Vida that are part of the responsibility of the environmental works of Tren Maya. In the 5th section, as well, you'll see the passengers will be able to enjoy the natural places as well as the Riviera Maya location like cenotes and paradising beaches, as well as the warmth of the human region, which is part of the richness of the southeast location. There are 311 days for the inauguration of Tren Maya in December 2023. National Commission of Water informs the advancement of the construction of the dam Santa Maria Rio Baluarte, Sinaloa. The dam has a physical advance of 81.5% completed. In the location, there is a finishing of the confirmation of different panels of the pared ondeada or the ondeada wall. Just the same, in the far end, there are different works of joining different types of material of 4,650,000 cubic meters of a total of 7,750,000 square feet, as well as the setting of concrete in El Pinto. On the face of the curtain upriver, there's the advancements of the iron and concrete installation using sliding simulations. On the first section of unloading, there's drainage piping done, as well as the cementing of the carrying of the materials product of the excavations. In the gravitational walls of both sides, they were reinforced with concrete and iron, as well as work of habilitation of planting and reinforcement of iron where these bases are going to be. On the third tunnel, as part of the electrical equipment, the tubing has been started with two outer sections. First is for the 104 meters of longitude with a 95 meter advancement, and in the second one, 300 meter example taking areas of 143 meters. And adding to that, there are works on the two valves of a butterfly style that have 60% advancement, one sealer of a butterfly style with 35% of advancement of that fabrication. Up to date, there are 1,488 employees that are being benefited by those works. All right, now we're going to go to the questions and answers.
Primera fila para que... ¿Es la que se sortea?
Sí.
Ah, bueno. ¿Cómo?
Buenos días, señor presidente.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, members of the cabinet.
Buenos días.
Good morning, Governor. Eduardo Esquivel, SDNP Noticias. My first question is, now that I had my vacation last year, I went to, I'm not sure why I got there, to the ruins of Ake. They are some ruins that are in the municipality of Discopoc, but they had greatness in the 700 of our era years. But right now we would need some type of rescue, and it will be a great value zone for the Tren Maya and a stop in Texcoco, and it's really close to the station of Izamal. And the local people are really happy with the Tren Maya, but they want and they would love to have some type of rescue happen of these ruins, since they are great. And not only does it have that attraction, but there's a hacienda, Necamera hacienda, that was made from local people to exploit that zone, and then it was in
hacienda
Necanea
nequenera,
location,
y actualmente
and right
sigue
now
produciendo Enequén.
is
Es de las
producing
poquísimas
Anakin.
que siguen haciendo
And one of the
Enequén,
few that are
y
still making Anakin in the
con
region
las máquinas de
with
hace
the
más de
machines
100
that more
años.
than
Y
100 years.
tiene otra forma que
And
también
it
los
also has
pobladores quieren que
another
se
part
rescate. Hay un
that the
sacbé,
people want
un camino
to have
blanco
rescued.
que
There's
va de las ruinas de
a
Aquén
white
hasta Izamal. Entonces,
Inakan that goes to
una
Izamal.
parte ya se abrió,
So one
se
of the sections is
rescató,
open, it's been
pero del
rescued,
lado
but
de Izamal,
the side of
pero
Izamal,
falta que se abra todo.
we
Y
still
los
need to
pobladores
have some
dicen
of that
que
opened up.
eso
And
sería
the local people
algo
say that
muy bueno
that would
para
be something good
como turismo y de
for
cultural.
tourism and cultural
Cuando
aspect.
si se puede, si pudiera hacer
If we can,
unas vías que le llaman
we can do some
carril,
rail
creo que sí,
that they call
que es
Kawil,
como se transportaban
as
el
they would
Enequén
transport.
en la zona maya.
They
Son
would transport the Anakin before,
unos rieles muy delgaditos que
very
van
thin
y
rails
se
that
hacía con una mula. Obviamente que
they go
pues,
to
ahorita no
Cunamul,
se
but
haría
obviously
con una
right
mula,
now,
y que pudieran
with a
ver
mule,
cómo
they would
eran
used to take it.
los diferentes
And we can see the difference,
la fauna que hay en esa zona,
the
en
location,
ese
the
tramo,
green
que son
locations
40
in that
kilómetros
section. There's
de
40
Sesacbay,
kilometers worth
y
of
cómo
6 mil.
podría
And
ser
how would that,
pues ver cómo era la agricultura
see
en los
how the
mayas, cómo se sembraba el
agricultural
maíz con las terrazas y
works,
muchas
how
cosas.
the Mayans would
Entonces, lo que
settle
mi pregunta
with
sería,
their works
¿qué
there. And my
posibilidades
question
hay
is,
de
what
este
are
rescate de la
possibilities
zona arqueológica
of the
de las
rescuing
ruinas
of
de
these
Aquén,
archaeological of Arque
Sesacbé, y
ruins
pues
in Sexabe
desarrollar
and
lo que están
develop
pidiendo la
what
población de
the
esa zona
people there in
pues
that
está
location is asking for.
muy cerca del
That is
paradero
really
de
close to
Texcoco.
the
Entonces
Tisco
sí sería
stop.
una,
So it would
ahorita
be
estaba viendo lo que presentó la
a
gobernadora
great
de cómo se
thing that I
pueden en
was
los diferentes
noticing that the
paraderos ir
governor
a
was
visitar zonas
presenting
arqueológicas.
to go visit
También hay
archaeological zone.
Un cenote muy bonito
There's a cenote as
en
well
esa zona. Entonces,
in that
pues está completo
zone, so it's
pero
complete, but
habría que tener un presupuesto para
we would need a
rescatar esto.
budget to rescue
Sería mi
this.
Sí, mire, toda la región
Yes, so the whole region
está llena
is full
de
of
vestigios arqueológicos,
archaeological
de zonas
locations.
arqueológicas. Muchos sitios,
A lot of those
todo el sureste.
in the
Es
southeast.
una de las regiones,
It's one of the
si no es que
regions
la
that,
región,
if not the
cultural,
region with
arqueológica más importante del
most
mundo.
cultural archaeological importance in the world.
Es todo un descubrimiento.
It's a whole
Estamos hablando de una
finding.
nación
We're talking about a whole nation of
cultural,
cultural, artistic,
y hablo de nación porque
and I'm speaking
en la
about
época
nation because in the pre-Hispanic
se calcula
times
que
there has been
esa región
calculation
fue habitada
that that region
por
itself was
mucha gente.
inhabited by a lot of
Se
people,
habla hasta de millones
and
de
it's known,
personas.
it's spoken about more than 1 million
Es
people.
el experto el que conoce más.
That is, you know,
sobre
the
esto, pues,
expert
es Diego.
that knows about this
¿Qué
is
es lo que
Diego.
puedo decir yo? Que tenemos un plan.
I mean, what could I say? But only that we have a
Tuvimos
plan.
que decidir sobre
We had to
qué
decide
sitios
whether
arqueológicos, ¿no?
what locations
se trabajaban
were going to be worked on
ahora
now
y cuáles iban a quedar pendientes.
and which of them
Porque
were going to be
estando el
pending.
tren,
Because once the train is
van a
on,
empezar a surgir demandas, necesidades
there's going to be
de
necessities, demands of rehabilitation
los sitios
of other sites.
arqueológicos. Se está avanzando bastante,
There's a great advancements,
pero ahí
but
tenemos pues Valladolid.
we have
Bueno,
Valladolid
antes,
there.
Chichen Itzá, Valladolid,
Before that, Chichen Itza, Valladolid, Edalan as
¿Por qué
well.
no explicas lo que tenemos
Why don't
en
you
esa,
explain to us
en
what we
esa
have
zona, que es
on that area?
prácticamente Yucatán, todo?
That is practically Yucatan
¿Y
area,
qué tenemos hacia adelante?
and what we have
Por ejemplo, ¿cómo
up
dejamos
forward. For example,
de la
how
isla de Campeche?
we
Claro.
left the
Sí,
Campeche
bueno,
Isla. Yes, so
efectivamente
effectively,
hay miles y
there
miles de
are
sitios
thousands and
arqueológicos
thousands
en
of
la
archaeological
península
sites
de Yucatán y en
in
general en
Yucatan
el área
Peninsula in general,
maya
in the
mexicana.
Mayan, Mexican Mayan area.
Tenemos registros que,
We have a
pues,
registry of,
insisto, nos hablan en
and
toda
I
esta área
insist, that
de
are
más de 10,000
more
registros
than
arqueológicos que ahora se
10,000
están
archaeological
incrementando
locations that are
con
incrementing
los estudios
with the
y
studies
las tareas del
and the
salvamento
works
arqueológico.
of the
De
salvaging
las zonas
of the
arqueológicas abiertas
archaeological
al público
locations.
en
The
el
ones that are
área
open to the public
tenemos
in
alrededor
the
de
area, we have more than
45, sin
40,000,
considerar
I'm
las
sorry,
que están en la
45,
parte media y sur de Chiapas,
without considering the ones
solo
that are
en
in
la parte más
Chiapas
cercana
on the
a la ruta
southern
del Tren
medium,
Maya. Se
only the ones
escogieron
that are close to the
26
Tren Maya.
para que
There was
pudiéramos
26
concentrar
chosen,
recursos y como bien ha dicho el presidente,
so we can concentrate
pudiéramos
resources,
plantearnos un
and
programa
as the
de
president said,
continuidad.
we can plan a
Hemos
continuity
también recogido
development
las
plan.
inquietudes de
We've
diversas comunidades que quieren
gotten from
trabajar en
diverse
sus
communities
sitios
that want to
y
work on
vamos a
their
estar en
sites,
contacto con
and
ellas.
we're going to be in
Vamos a
contact
ver
with
si
them. We're going
podemos
to see if
conseguir
we can
recursos adicionales
get
de
additional
otras
resources from
fuentes
other
para poder ir trabajando estas zonas. Vamos a
ways,
considerar muy particularmente
and we
este
will
sitio de
particularly
ruinas de Yaque,
consider
que ya
these
conozco
ruins
bien.
of Yaque that I do know
Por lo que
well.
respecta a
And when it
todo este
comes to
tramo,
all this section,
particularmente el
particularly
tramo
the
3
section
y
of
la parte de
3
Yucatán
section,
del tramo 4, vamos a intervenir
Yucatan,
en
and the
Promesa,
4th
Ekbalam,
section,
que
we're
es
going
una
to intervene in
hermosa
Promesa
ciudad
Ikbalam.
maya antigua,
It's a beautiful
cercana a
Mayan
Valladolid.
city next to
Vamos a
Valladolid.
intervenir Chichén Itzá,
We're going to be
donde se va a
working
hacer
on
un
Chichen
gran
Itza,
proyecto
where
de
there's a great project of
reordenamiento,
reordering,
investigación,
investigation,
conservación de estructuras y
conservation of
apertura
structures,
de un
and the
área
opening of
muy
an area, a
interesante
very
que
interesting
se
area
conoce
that
como Serie
is
Inicial o
known as
Chichén
Serie
Viejo.
Inicial or Chichen
Vamos a
Viejo.
trabajar
We are going to be
Sivichaltún,
working
en donde
Sivichaltún as
vamos
well,
a
where
reconfigurar
we are
el museo de
reconfiguring
sitio
the
para la
museum of the
comprensión
site
de lo que es
museum
la cultura
for
maya
comprehension of
del
the
norte de la
culture Mayan
península
of
y
North
vamos a trabajar como
Peninsula.
ya se ha
And
presentado
we will be
aquí
working as it's been
8
presented,
sitios que
8
corresponden
different
a
sites that
la
correspond
ruta PUC,
to the
Uxmal,
Puk
Cabá,
route,
Sayil,
Cabal, Sayil,
Labná,
Labna,
Oxquintoc
Oshkintok,
y otras
and
zonas que
others
también corresponden
that
a esta
correspond to
ruta
this
que
route,
podrá constituir entonces un atractivo muy
that will
importante
be able to
porque
construct a very
seguramente
high
favorecerá la pernocta de los visitantes.
attraction because
Vamos
it's going to
también
be
a
for
hacer
the visitors.
trabajos con
We were
comunidades
also
como
going to
las
be
que usted refiere,
doing
periodista,
works with communities, the ones like you refer, of
trabajos
course,
para dar lugar a museos
works to
comunitarios.
give museum,
En Jalachó
communitarian
ya lo tenemos
museums.
planteado y
Calixtoc, we've
probablemente
planted
con
that,
las comunidades
and probably
de
with the
Atec,
communities
Ixcococ
of Atec,
podremos
Ixcococ.
también trabajar
We will also be
en
working
paralelo estos
in
museos de
parallel
sitio
with these site
que
museums
permiten
that
exhibir
allow
toda
us
esta
to
riqueza
show
de los vestigios arqueológicos que hemos podido
the
recuperar y
richness
muchos
of all these
también que la
archaeological
gente
sites that we've been able to recuperate,
mantiene, que
and
la
the
gente
people
tiene registrados con el INA y
have registered
mantiene
with INA
en custodia,
and
de
maintains in
manera que estos
custody
museos comunitarios también
in a way
serán
that
al mismo
these
tiempo espacios para la
communitarian
identidad
spaces
y el
will
orgullo
be
de
for the
pertenencia de las
identity
comunidades mayas
and
del
the pride
presente
of
y al
the
mismo tiempo
Mayan
para
people of the
que
present,
se pueda favorecer
and as well
la
so that we
visita
can
y la
benefit
derrama
from
turística
the
en
visiting
sus
of
regiones.
the
Es todo.
tourism and in the regions.
En una segunda pregunta, señor presidente.
In a second question,
quisiera,
Mr. President,
México tiene un gran compromiso
Mexico has a great
de
compromise
bajar las emisiones
of lowering the
de contaminantes
contaminants,
en
lowering
un
those
35%
in
para
a
el
35%
2030.
to
Estábamos
2030.
viendo, platicado con expertos
I've spoken with
y
experts.
pues quisieran saber qué se está haciendo
They want to
para
know what
el
is being
biogás.
done for the biogas.
El biogás es
The biogas
importante
is really
porque
important because
es una forma
it is a way of
desechos orgánicos,
organic wastes
poderlos hacer
so that we can make
energía
them,
limpia
turn them
y
into clean
renovable.
energy and renewable energy.
Pues hay varias cuestiones. En
There's a
las
few
pasadas
situations there in
administraciones
other
se daban
administrations.
certificados
They would give certifications,
certificados que se estaba produciendo
that
con energías limpias, pero
it's been
les
made
daban los
with clean
certificados,
energies, but the
y luego ya
certifications
olvidaban el
would be given,
proyecto,
but then they
y
would
esto
forget the
serviría
project,
mucho
and this
para
would
las
work
zonas donde
a lot for
se
the
podrían
zones
hacer este tipo de
that can
proyectos
that these projects
hacer
can be made,
biogás y
the
usarlo para
biogas, and make it
electricidad y para pues como sustituto de gasolinas,
for electricity and the substitute
como ya se hace
for
en
clean
Michoacán, en
gas,
Zitácuaro.
as it's done
Hay
in
una
Zitácuaro and
empresa
Michoacán.
que con desechos de nopal
There's this
hacen
company
biogás
that
para
has with those the
como gasolina.
nopal
Entonces,
residue
pero
make
esto podría
fuel.
ser muy bueno para
This
las
would be
zonas
good
donde
for
hay
the
granjas
places where there are
porcícolas o
farms,
pecuarias, cualquier, porque estos
pecuariar
desechos de
or
los
porciculal
animales
farms,
sirven para
because
hacer,
the waste
entonces
for
ya
these
no se
animals
contaminan los
work.
cielos
So now we
los
don't
suelos
contaminate and the flooring
de
and
las
the sky and the
comunidades, y esto sería
environment.
muy bueno. ¿Qué se está haciendo
This
para
would be
hacer?
what is being done.
La jefa de gobierno va a estrenar ahorita una planta
The
en
governor
el
of
poniente
Mexico City,
donde están los tiraderos de basura,
where
una
there are
planta muy
dumps,
interesante,
trash dumps, there's this factory or plant,
hidrotermal,
hydrothermal
es lo
plants,
mismo, que está para producir
to
electricidad
produce electricity.
de una manera. ¿Pero qué está haciendo el gobierno
What is the government
para
doing to
poder cumplir el compromiso que se
be
tiene
able
de
to
emisiones de efecto invernadero, bajarlas en un 35%
lower
para
the
el 2030?
35% to the 2030
aquí está
emissions
María Luisa,
to
que
35%?
elaboró
Well,
el
Maria
documento
Lisa is here that elaborated that
para
document
comprometernos a la
so that we
disminución
can assure
de
the
contaminantes
diminution of
que
contaminants
tienen como
that have
fuente
a basis
energías no renovables,
in non-renewable
básicamente fósiles.
energy, is basically a
Tenemos
fossil.
un plan,
We do have a plan,
vamos a decir integral,
let's say
que
integral,
comprenden el impulso de varias fuentes de
that
generación de
are
energía
compromised with a lot of
renovables,
locations with
limpias,
renewable
y ella
energies,
tiene
clean,
información, a
renewable,
ver si
and
puedes
she
explicar.
has some information about that. Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, so I'll share a little bit of the compromise that Mexico has done for the 2030s. And it ratifies that we have added as a federal government that 35%. That is really good. But how are we going to do that? We're going to do that mainly with 4 different realms, 4 strategies. I'm going to base myself on one right now in the basis of the natural locations, solutions based on the natural areas. It's spoken from 2 elements. One of them is this Sembrando Vida project. As you all know, is the program of reforestation, the biggest one in the world. We are talking about 1,100,000 plants. Since 2019, with this is going to be a great assistance of millions of tons of carbon monoxide remember that the plants start to grow, and in that sense, the stability that they will have more or less up to 2030 is what they're going to be able to give. And another solution that is really good and is being taken very seriously through the Mexican government and instruction of the president to create more natural areas, protected natural areas, and that allows us for conservation and safeguarding. We are the fifth country of mega diversity. This permits us that we have in these ecosystems of our country takes us to a compromise of care. In this sense, remind you that we have 185 different areas. We are taking care of 90 million acres. Approximately, it's going to be the 10% are territorial areas, and I want to share that with the job that we are doing in this great project of Tren Maya, we are pushing a lot of protected areas. I was speaking about this 15 days ago of this area, protected area in Calakmul, making it bigger, and we're going to be taking it to 1.6 billion acres. This will place us after the Amazons as the ecosystem of conservation, the biggest one in the planet. So that is part of the pushing of this works. I was speaking about the reforestation, natural areas, but as well of the natural areas that we have already been protected. Which ones are those? We have 182 that were already there, and in this sense, we are looking for that once we leave this administration, we have all the programs and plans of managing of these protected areas done, created, and protected. And we are setting as pushing certain things that have been worked on before, but we are finishing them now since the current government, and as we can see, are bigger and wider spaces. As well, we are talking about the residual treatment plants and cities that you can add this biogas. You're not contemplating that for the biogas? And what you're talking about in the farm, the pig farms in Yucatan. Remember, those are making emissions, gas emissions. So what we're trying to do is utilize that biogas in the treatment of the plants of residual waters. This is more about the pilot studies, but we are going to be working on it as well. Mr. President.
Muchas gracias. Ya por último, señor presidente, ¿ya se tiene
do we have
luz
any
de la venta de Banamex o todavía estamos
information about the Banamex cell?
Pues está en espera. De eso
Bank,
puedo
Banamex Bank.
comentar.
Well, we're waiting for information.
Solo sé
That's all we can say right now. All I know is that the things are working good. And
pues yo espero que
that I hope
pronto, muy pronto,
very soon
ya se dé a conocer
is known
esta operación.
About this operation. A very important operation because it means that it gives assurance to workers of this bank. Also means to give assurance and certainty of this clients of the bank. It means that we can maintain an important bank in the country that can be undertaken. This operation can be undertaken with the participation of Mexican people. that
es destacado.
is highlighted.
Significa
It also means
el que el patrimonio
that the
cultural
cultural
de Banamex,
patrimony
que es
of Banamex,
muy importante,
that is really important,
se quede en nuestro país,
stays in our country,
que se conserve en México.
that is conserved
Y
and maintained in our country, and
no deja de ser
additionally,
importante,
no less
pues,
important,
a diferencia de antes,
in as it was before when they sold it,
que no pagaron ni un centavo de impuestos,
that didn't even pay 1 cent of
estamos
taxes.
hablando
And of course, we're speaking
de otros tiempos,
other times
cuando era presidente Fox,
when Fox was
porque
around,
lo veo muy activo en
president, because I do see him very active
las redes.
now in
Entonces,
the media and
para
the
que no se enoje tanto,
social.
más recordarle que siendo él presidente y
I just want to
estando el
remind him
secretario de Hacienda, Gil
when he
Díaz,
was a president and Gil Diaz was
que se lo había recomendado
secretary of the
Roberto Hernández,
Hacienda or IRS office.
porque Gil Díaz
Roberto
había
Hernandez
trabajado
recommended
con
him
Roberto
because Gil
Hernández.
Diaz had worked with Roberto Hernandez
Cuando está
when
el gobierno de Fox, se iba a cabo
Fox
esa
government
operación.
is there. This operation is undertaken.
Principal accionista de
This
Banamex era
auctionist,
Roberto Hernández. El
main
secretario de
auctionist,
Hacienda
Roberto Hernandez, Secretary
había
of Hacienda,
estado
was
como empleado
as an
de
employee of
Roberto
him.
Hernández. Pues todo se acomodó
All this settled
para que no pagaran impuestos.
so that they couldn't pay any
Tenían que haber
taxes.
pagado como,
They had to pay, I think,
en ese entonces,
in that
de aquellos
instance,
pesos, como 12,000 millones de pesos.
12
Entonces
million,
ahora,
12,000 million pesos.
al darse esta operación,
So now this is
pues
been
van
made.
a pagar los impuestos.
They're going to pay the taxes.
En este caso, los
In this case, of course,
que están en la operación.
the ones that are doing
Entonces,
the
no nos
operation.
cae nada mal
So that is really not
este
bad.
ingreso para
This
la hacienda
income
pública,
is not
para
bad
el
for the
presupuesto público,
public hacienda, for the
que es el que se utiliza
public budget that is being used
para impulsar el desarrollo y
to
para el
push
bienestar
development and the
de nuestro
well-being
pueblo.
of our people.
Entonces, ojalá
So
y
hopefully,
pronto se resuelva.
that maybe soon that will be resolved.
Y que no se enoje Fox.
And I hope Fox doesn't get mad.
Presidente Emerson Segura del Sistema
Emerson
Público
Segura,
de
the
Radiodifusión,
public system
preguntarle
of
en referencia
radio,
a su mensaje del fin de semana
in reference to
sobre que el
the
gobierno de México
weekend's
va a
message
impulsar,
that the government
o
of
va a
Mexico
encabezar
will
este
push
movimiento
or
en contra del
head
bloqueo a Cuba.
this
Me
blockade to
gustaría
Cuba.
preguntarle si ya el gobierno
I
mexicano
want to ask
tiene
you if Mexican
conversaciones
government is
con
in
el gobierno
conversations
estadounidense
or
para
talks
que
with the
México pueda
U.S.
fungir como
government
mediador o
so
como
Mexico can be as a
interlocutor,
mediator,
al
or
mismo tiempo que, bueno, Rusia
at the
acaba
same
de
time that
nombrar
Russia
nuevo
has just
embajador
named
en
a new
México, y el que
ambassador
está
in
en
Mexico,
México se va a Cuba,
and the
¿no?
one
Es
that
decir,
is
si
in
eso
Mexico
juega a
goes to
favor
Cuba.
o en
So is
contra,
that going to play in
en ese
favor
sentido,
or
presidente.
against
Muchas gracias.
Bueno, no
in that
sabía yo
sense?
lo del cambio de
Well, I
embajadores.
didn't know about the
Nada más,
change of ambassador.
Nosotros siempre,
We will
incluso
always,
desde antes de que yo
even
llegara al gobierno,
before that I would
la
be in the
política
government,
exterior
the
de
external
nuestro
politic,
país, apegada a los
political,
principios de no intervención y de autodeterminación de los pueblos, ha condenado el bloqueo a Cuba.
I have condemned
Desde siempre.
the blockade
No solo
to
México.
Cuba since always, but not only
Cada
Mexico is
vez
doing
que
that.
hay
Every
asamblea
time that there's an assembly
en la
in the
Organización de Naciones Unidas,
organization of or UN organization,
se somete a votación de todos los
it
países
is put on the vote,
el tema del bloqueo a Cuba.
this blockade situation,
Y solo uno o
and
dos
only
países
one or two
o votan en contra o se abstienen.
vote against it, or they
De
abstain
cerca de 200
themselves
países.
from amongst 200
Es
countries,
decir,
around 200 countries.
La inmensa mayoría
I mean, the main
de los países del mundo
majority of the world's
está en contra
countries is against
del bloqueo
the blockade
a Cuba.
to Cuba.
Pero suele suceder
But it so
de
happens
que
every now and then
se concluye la asamblea,
that the assembly ends
como funciona el veto
as the veto
de un
works
país,
of a certain
pues
country.
no se puede hacer nada.
You can't do anything really,
Y así año con año.
and so on, as is year by year.
Es importante
But it is really important
el que este tema se trate
that this
como un tema
is dealt with
fundamental
as a fundamental
de derechos humanos,
subject of human rights.
porque sin duda es
Because without a doubt,
una violación flagrante
there is a flagrant
a los derechos
violation
humanos de
to
todo
human rights
un pueblo.
of a whole people.
Nadie puede
Nobody can
cercar, bloquear
block,
a
encircle
un pueblo por razones
a people because
políticas,
of
ideológicas.
political, ideological reasons.
Es inhumano,
It's inhumane
porque es un asunto
it's a business of
que tiene que ver con una carga ideológica que
with
nulifica
a ideological
el derecho de los
burden
pueblos
that unifies the rights
con independencia y
of
con libertad.
today's people with
¿Qué culpa
independence and liberty.
tienen nuestros hermanos cubanos
What fault are our brothers in Cuba
de que no le guste
that
a una potencia
some powers don't like
el que decidan
the fact
actuar de
to
manera
decide
soberana?
to act in a sovereign way?
¿Y por qué
And why
orillar a ese pueblo
push those people
mediante un bloqueo
through a
injusto
blockade, a just blockade,
a que se rebele
to rebel
en contra
against
del propio gobierno?
their own government?
Porque al final eso es lo que buscan.
Because at the end of the day, that's what they want.
Si bloquean
If they block
y no pueden llegar alimentos, no pueden
and
llegar
there's no food, no
medicamentos,
medicine, no
no
medication
les
can arrive,
permiten
they're not allowed to,
los cubanos
that the Cuban people
que viven en Estados Unidos o en
that
cualquier
live in
otra
the
parte del
US or
mundo,
anywhere else
envíen
in
a
the
sus
world
familiares
can send
apoyos.
their family some assistance.
Es más,
And even more,
los ponen en una lista
they put them in this list
de países terroristas.
of terrorist
¿Y eso qué
countries.
significa?
What does that mean?
De que no pueden
That they can't,
las instituciones del gobierno de Cuba,
governments, and
ni
embassies
siquiera abrir una cuenta
can't
bancaria
even open up a bank account
en el país
in the
donde
country
están
where
sus sedes,
their locations are. They can't do it
porque están en la lista
because they are in this
de
list
países
of countries
supuestamente terroristas.
supposedly terrorists.
Todo un exceso
A whole
es
excess,
realmente contrario a las
really
libertades,
contrary
es
to
una ofensa
liberties. It's an offense
a la Estatua de la Libertad,
to the Statue of
a las
Liberty,
dignidades
to
humanas.
the human dignities.
Eso, en
That in
vez de
itself,
ayudar a la imagen
instead of
de Estados
helping
Unidos,
the
con todo
image of
respeto,
the United States, and I say it
le
respectfully,
afecta.
it's affecting them.
¿Cómo se va a estar hablando
How
de
is
democracia y de
this going to
libertades
be speaking about democracy and liberty when
se actúa de esa forma?
they're acting this way?
Washington decía
Washington used to
que
say,
ningún país podría
no country
o debía
or No country could or should
del infortunio de otros pueblos.
take advantage of the unfortunate situation of other countries. And all this, of course,
También por politiquería.
because of politic
Porque
situations.
hay
Because there are Cubans in the United States, leaders that even get to be senators, and that they're going with this wave to impede that there's a humanitarian treatment to the people of Cuba, to their own people, because they obtain benefits with this politic situation. That's why they establish themselves in the public realm. They're senators, they're businessmen, good businessmen, but due to the suffering of the Cuban people. So that's why we're going to do some work to look for an agreement. When President Obama, that is advancing, there was an agreement, and Pope Francis President Obama actually visited. There was, in better terms, situations in better terms. Of course, nevertheless, when Trump came in, that policy of closeness held back. And that's when Cuba was placed in of the terrorist countries. So just imagine that there is no justification of that. The ones that are really smart, for example, can you accuse with justification, with evidence to promote terrorism? No. In the contrary, Cuba has assisted for the pacification in Colombia and other countries. But what are the facts? What are the evidence? There's none. It's only ideological burden, interests, political situations, or electoral politic situation to obtain votes, concessions. That is what is happening, and we're looking to persuade, convince the U.S. government so that there's a change on that politic. Because it's just. We are also seen in the elites, political elites, and not only, and that they're going to be taking measures again, or with the Biden administration. We are seeing a more radicalization of governors, Greg Abbott in Texas, in Florida, that there's Ron DeSantis, where he's in Florida. He could be the successor of Trump. And on the 24th, there's a radicalization of the anti-migrant and racist politician ways. Well, I think that they have to be careful, because there are more citizens each time from the U.S. conscious that there needs to be a policy to substitute that instead of applying a hegemonical policy of intervene,
se busquen relaciones de cooperación,
that better to apply cooperation,
de desarrollo y de amistad con todos los pueblos.
of development and friendship with all the people.
Cada vez hay más gente.
And each time there's more people that
Lo mismo
believe in
en el
that.
tema migratorio.
Same thing in the migrant
El maltrato
situation.
a migrantes
The
no se
mistreatments
permite.
of migrants is not allowed.
Estados Unidos se convierte en
The
una gran
U.S. has
nación
turned into a great nation
por los migrantes.
because of the migrants.
Además,
And
es un doble discurso,
it's a double
porque
face
se
situation
van a
since
necesitar
we're going to be needing
trabajadores.
workers.
Estados Unidos no tiene
It's like a double speech. The U.S.
fuerza de trabajo suficiente,
doesn't have enough manpower,
ni Canadá,
nor Canada.
y estamos viendo, y eso nos da mucho gusto, y ojalá lo tomen en
And
cuenta
we're noticing, and of course, that they take this into account, these
y reflexivos,
reflectionate politicians and irrational,
oportunistas.
opportunistic.
Estamos viendo
We are noticing that
que están dando resultados algunas políticas
there are results,
que está llevando
that
a
are
cabo
some policies are
el
being
presidente Biden
undertaken that
en
Mr.
materia
Biden is doing when it comes to migration. I can prove it.
Si Marcelo me
Hopefully, Marcelo can
la gráfica sobre flujos migratorios,
the graph for the migrant
¿sí? Porque
fluctual
están
numbers,
dando oportunidad
because they're given the opportunity to
los que quieren ir a Estados Unidos
the ones that want to go to the U.S.
puedan mediante
can do
un
so
trámite
through
obtener una especie de visa
some
de
paperwork,
trabajo.
obtain some type of working visa,
Y a partir de que toman esa decisión,
and starting
miren lo que
from
está
that
pasando.
decision, look at what's happening.
Así venía.
That's how it was.
Estamos hablando como de 200,000.
So we're talking about
Estos son
200,000.
deportados.
These are deportees,
250 total.
250 in total.
Estos no mexicanos,
These
que
non-Mexicans,
es la línea amarilla,
the yellow one,
esto se incrementó mucho por
incremented a lot
la migración de
because of
hermanos
the
venezolanos,
migration of the
colombianos,
Venezuelan,
ecuatorianos,
Colombian, Ecuadorian,
nicaragüenses, cubanos.
Nicaragua
Y aquí
people,
tomaron la decisión
and they took the decision
de establecer este mecanismo
to establish this mechanism of grants. I'm sorry,
de
not grant,
visas
visas,
temporales.
temporary visas,
Y miren lo que se
and look at
produjo.
what happened.
Aún aquí fueron 24,000
Even so, there was
visas temporales para venezolanos.
24,000 visas to Venezuelan
Nosotros
members,
lo
people.
percibimos porque teníamos
We
todo el
noticed
istmo
it because
lleno
we had the entire area
de
full
hermanos
of
venezolanos y de otros
Venezuelan
países.
people and from other countries.
Pusimos campamentos
We
con
placed
brigadas
put in
médicas
place camps
y
with medical brigades,
se daba alimentación.
There was
Al momento que toman esta decisión,
they were fed, and at the moment they take this decision, it goes down like this.
esto es ordenar el flujo
So this
migratorio.
is ordering
Este es
the
el
migrants' fluctuation. That's the option. So use as a flag, because the election times are coming. Migrants is not nothing more than political policy. This is us, Mexican people. Lower down, of course. This is the representatives of the companies that can tell us that there's a lack, at least in the southeast of the area. There's a lot of lack of manpower. All the industrial parks, for example, that were constructed in last year were occupied. So there's been a lot of external investments. There's a lot of employment opportunity. I'm going to give you some numbers. I don't want no jealousy or bad sentiment generated, because the whole country is being attended to. In difference of the neoliberal period, growth was only given in a few regions, to the point that where the entire neoliberal period, a lot of the municipalities lost population, because there was only employment in the frontier cities, in the coast, in some cities of the center of the country, in the big cities, and in the case of the southeast, only in Cancun, for example, in the north of Quintana Roo, not even in the whole Quintana Roo area, there were islands. So now what we're looking for is a development, a horizontal development, because during this neoliberal period, the north would grow 5%, center would grow 2%, the southeast, no growth, zero growth, or it would decrease. So that's why the average was 2%, national average. But the entire states in the southeast, with the exception of Quintana Roo, there was no growth. What happened last year? Who was the two? Which were the two states in the country that had major growth? Tabasco and Quintana Roo. 12%. In the situation of employment, the same thing. That's why this happens. People, that is our purpose, have a possibility to work, to grow, to be happy where they were born, where their cultures are, where their people are, which is what we mentioned to the U.S. government. Then it cannot be done with walls, militarizing the frontier. That's the major problem of migration. If people don't go to the U.S. because they want to, it's because of necessity. So if this helps, if we help Central America, all Latin America, as it was done with the Kennedy's plan of the Alliance to Progress, that is more than 50 years old. Ever since then, there was no investments in the Caribbean. Those are the propositions that these politicians should do. Opportunistic politicians. It's really easy to say, well, let's militarize the frontier, the border. Let's put walls at the border, looking for the applaud, the easy applaud. That's not going to work for them anymore. Because of two things. One, because if there's mistreatment to migrants, especially to Mexicans, we are going to call so that there's no voting of those parties to those candidates in exercising of our liberty. Because Franklin Delano Roosevelt is the titan of liberty, one of the best presidents in the United States. He would speak about four liberties. A liberty of speech, the liberty of belief, the liberty to live without fear or fright, and the liberty to live free of misery. That was Roosevelt. So then, we're not going to allow the mistreatment of migrants. We're not going to allow the mistreatment to Mexicans. And the other that these politicians need to take advantage of, with all due respect, of course, is that in the U.S., as I expressed before, there's a movement in favor of the human rights. And I commented here that in the visit that we had with our friend, President Biden, one of the things he spoke about is that we were moving from the airport to his hotel, is that in every 100 kids that are in primary school, 24 of them speak Spanish. So then, Hispanic people that work and live honorably, there's not going to be any compliance to the fact that there's maltreatment to their paisans, to their migrant paisans that have their unique and same origins in the white sense of the word, and the song of Ruben Blades applies to it. We'll see what we do to be transmitting that from here. Can't hear the question, but I think it's Blades or Rene. Well, look for it, and we can play it here. Whoever doesn't like or want their country doesn't like his mother.
Vamos a escucharla, ¿no? Es que es importante el tema, porque sí, ya estoy viendo, como dice el compañero.
It's because it's important. They've started already.
A querer agarrar de piñata.
They started wanting to grab as a piñata
con su conservadurismo,
with their conservatism,
con su conservadurismo de siempre, ¿no? Pero ya cambió la situación.
But the situation has changed.
Nuestros paisanos,
and even more that our paisans know our posture. We are really respectful to Mr. Biden, President Biden, amongst other things, because he's the only one of the presidents in the U.S. in recent years
propuso construir muros. Es el único que los que han habido republicanos o demócratas, como si fuese.
And there hasn't been nor Republicans or Democrats. There hasn't been a like a demand or a solution. They had to build the wall, just as publicity as well.
Le reconocemos eso y le reconocemos al presidente Biden que no haya redadas.
We recognize that from Mr. Biden, President Biden, and that there are no roundups. There's a strong opposition. They haven't been able to do that. The regularization of naturalization of the migrants, as it was offered in campaign, but at least there's no roundups. There's no maltreatment. That we thank. So you have it? All right, let's play it. So that what is left, that's why I hold up against any climate. I am a hurricane for consumption. I am in the middle of the summer, in the love, in the cholera. I am the one that is born day to day, that lives with the best caring. I'm a politics speech. I'm the most beautiful face that I've known. I am the picture of someone that has been stolen or kidnapped. I am a piece of land that is worth. I am a bag of beans. I am Maradona against England doing 2 goals. I am the one who holds up the flag that I am in my terrain. I am who my teacher was my father, who doesn't love who is not patriotic, doesn't love his mother. I am a body without legs, but I walk. You cannot buy time, you cannot buy the sun, you cannot buy the rain, you can't buy the warmth, you cannot buy the clouds, you cannot buy the colors, nor the happiness. You cannot purchase my pains. You cannot buy wind. You cannot buy the sun. You cannot buy the rain, nor the heats. You cannot purchase the clouds, nor the colors, nor the happiness. You cannot buy my pains. On one end I have the rivers, I have my teeth, so when I smile, the snow that covers the mountains, the sun that dries me, and the rain that washes me. a drought-full desert that I quench with a drink of pulque. I have all that I have. I have my lungs breathing the height that suffocates. I am the best in noticing the verses written under a full night with stars. I am a location in Cuba under the sun. I am a ritual. I am the wing that combs my hair. I am all the saints that hang from my neck. I am the artificial land because my land is natural. You cannot purchase the wind. You cannot buy the rain. You cannot buy the warmth. You cannot purchase the clouds. You cannot purchase the colors, nor the happiness. Well, there you go. So next one. Sorry I wasn't able to sing it right. Just try to translate it. From the El Golfo of Isam and newspaper Imagen of Veracruz. Mr. President, during the last few days, there's a lot of intoxicated cases. In some cases, hospital need of that in different location of the country due to clorazepam. Something about a situation in TikTok. They have a Chinese version in TikTok that is called Douyin. Nevertheless, that the difference, this social network, their use is prohibited by minors of less than 14. And this, therefore, works in a different way of limiting the educational situations, and it does not contribute to the best development of society. The Mexican government has considered to establish normatives to obligate the different social media to transparent the algorithms that they function with, to avoid the spreading of content in a sense that is not benefiting the Mexicans, specifically to the kids and young people that usually are the most vulnerable. Yes, so tomorrow is the health reunion. So do you think maybe that they can give us a response tomorrow? All the people responsible of health, Dr. Alcocer and Hugo Lopez Gatell, about this in particular. He spoke about something to do with, well, that it's being treated, that stimulated the consumption of fentanyl. But we are going to take advantage of this so that they can inform about this. So when the electoral times are closing in and we know the candidates, to provide the governor presidency, some Morena parties have made preferences for them or them. And moreover, in the 18th state that in 2024 they elect the new governor, there's a few governors that show without importance who is their favorites to succeed them in the state government. Mr. President, what opinion do you think is correct or consider that can generate signals contrary to the neutrality that with as public functionaries should keep? Well, I think that
deben de manejarse con prudencia y tenerle confianza a la gente, porque va a ser el pueblo.
Yes, because it's the people that will decide.
En el caso de
in the case
los candidatos que surjan de nuestro movimiento, ya se definió, no puedo yo hablar de esto, pero
I'm not allowed to speak about this, but there has been defined, and it is on the statutaries, where Mara, for example, is a governor from Quintana Roo, a very good governor, but before she was a candidate. And to be a candidate, she was submitted to a survey, 4 surveys, a few surveys. But that's how it was. Mara came to be governor. Nobody is imposing her. There's no fingers pointing towards her. So I'm not sure how the conservatives are going to do. If it's going to be a survey, a group. You know how much influence Claudio X Gonzalez has, and the big ones. But that's
En el
another
caso del
thing.
movimiento nuestro,
In the case of our movement,
el partido
the
al que yo pertenezco, pero tengo
party that
licencia,
I belong to, but I have a license for,
gobierno para todos,
because it's a government for all,
pues ahí ya en el estatuto está establecido que es
there on that
una encuesta,
statute,
es un
it is
cuestionario
established
que se hace,
that there's some questioning that is being
está
done.
aprobado,
It is approved.
ya no hablemos
Let's not say
que científicamente,
that it is
técnicamente,
scientifically
que
approved,
una buena
but it's
encuesta
technically that a good survey
es el reflejo,
is the reflection,
es una muestra
is a sign
de lo que está pensando
of what
la gente, los
people are
ciudadanos.
thinking, the society is
Si
thinking.
se hace una muy buena selección, una muestra,
If you do a
las
good
preguntas que ya
selection
sabemos,
and the questioning that we already
lo
know.
conoces,
Do you know him?
¿no? A todos se pone en la lista, si los conocen,
If they're
qué opinión
known,
tienen,
what
buena,
opinion do you
mala,
have, good,
regular,
bad, a
si lo
doubt?
consideran honesto,
If you consider him or her honest,
honrado, honradón,
honorable,
como diría el maestro,
honorable-ish, as the teacher would say,
o corrupto,
or corrupt,
si está cercano a la gente,
if he's close to the people,
si le gustaría, o cuál de ellos le gustaría
and
que fuese el candidato,
if any of them
si votaría por él,
know of
por
any
ella,
that would want to be the candidate, if they would vote for them or her,
y ahí sale
and that's how it
quién
is.
es quién.
Who is who?
Entonces, nadie debe estar pensando,
So nobody must be thinking,
ningún político
no politician, no knowledgeable politician or authentic politician
en que va a poder manipular
should be thinking that he or she is going to be manipulating
lo de la publicidad,
that about the publicity
de que
of
vístete de esta manera
dress up this a certain way or
y ponte moco de gorila,
get moco de gorilla on your hair, smile,
afílate un colmillo,
sharpen that
está muy grande,
fang that is really long,
abraza
hold
a la gente,
the people,
di estas frases
say these
porque
phrases
les dan hasta los lemas.
because they're even getting so deep.
Yo les aconsejaría a los candidatos
I would suggest to these
que no les
candidates
hagan caso a los publicistas,
that to ignore the
no les ayudan. Es que los
publicists,
publicistas
they're not helping them
no dejan de pertenecer a una élite.
because
No
these
tienen
publishers
conocimiento
are still belonging to this elites. They don't have a notion of how the people think,
y por lo general menosprecian.
and generally they minimize the people.
A mí me pasaba.
It
Yo
happened to
llegaba
me
cuando iba a grabar
when I would
el
go
mensaje,
record these
ya me
messages,
las tarjetas
and they would have these cards
y pues lo que tenía yo que decir,
of all that I had to say to start,
puro tecnicismo
all technicalities
que la gente no entiende.
that people don't
Una
understand.
jeringonza tecnocrática, ¿no?
There's a greatness of technicalities there that
Atenta contra el
attempts against
lenguaje,
the
contra el castellano. Pero se creen que con eso, con esas palabras,
language, but they think with that
dan la imagen
technicality,
de sabiondos,
they give this image of knowledgeable
como decían antes.
if they speak
Pues así
well.
no los entiende la gente.
Well, that's how the people don't understand them. And then I would get there with the cards,
Que digo,
What am I supposed to say?
Les estoy planteando a la gente en
It's
las
what I'm
plazas
telling the people at the plaza.
que no acepten lo que les
Not to
ofrecen de
accept
migajas cuando hay elecciones.
of what they're offering as a
Pollos, patos,
crumb,
chivos, borregos,
chickens,
puercos, cochinos, marranos.
pigs, and horses and mules, and, or
lo que es cierto.
what's truth in those times.
No lo tiene ni Obama.
That airplane, even Obama didn't have. By the way, we haven't been able to sell because it's so luxurious. Now that President Biden, I asked him to help us, and I take advantage to remind him he's not watching the morning conferences, maybe, but maybe that he's informed Mr. Biden that we send them the airplane, and they will send us cargo planes, helicopters, to suppress fires, to help us with that. He said that they were seeing to that, so there's the possibility. The airplane is being having maintenance constantly, it's in perfect condition. Or the giveaways that they're given when there's elections, that I would say that not to accept the beans with lies. The pantries with lies. That is the truth. The other thing was, so why are you here? They say, well, I was brought. Those people that are going to vote. And in the meetings, a lot of the people were to the point where there was people being brought in bulk, and then people would have left. Half of the people would have left, and everybody eating or drinking things given there. That's how it was. So that they're not thinking about those situations. So that the people are not undermined. People need to be respected. People are conscious now. Mexico is one of the countries with less situations of politics that are not known. There is a team of millions of women and men that are conscious. It's very hard now to manipulate. We are seeing it now. These campaigns are here on radio and television, newspapers. It's never been seen. Hopefully it doesn't go in one way and out the other. And we're speaking about that the attacks to the president were not given in the Mexican press since 110 years ago, at least. And if it's not true of what I'm saying, so let it be known
desde la
and
época
prove me
del
wrong.
presidente Madero.
Since the times of President Madero.
No se atacaba tanto a un
This
presidente, todos los medios,
has not been seen, and a president has not been
la
attacked in
mayoría,
all media, in the majority,
diría que cuantitativamente,
and more or less speaking,
98%
98%
de los medios en contra.
of the media
Hay
against.
periódicos en donde todos
There
los
are
artículos,
newspapers where all the articles,
las caricaturas,
the cartoons, for example,
programas de radio,
radio programming, all of them.
van escuchando la radio, le cambian y
They're listening to the radio, they switch channels,
lo mismo.
and it's the same thing.
Y era antes la radio la campeona de la
And
libertad.
before, the radio was a champion of liberty.
Claro, existe las radios
And of course, you
comunitarias,
got the communitarian radios and other sources, but the main radio
a
chains,
ver, recuérdame cuáles son
if you could remind me of which one
las
of them,
cadenas en donde están los comentaristas más famosos. Radio
where the
Fórmula,
most famous commentaries are,
MBS,
Radio Fórmula, MBS.
todas. ¿Cómo se llama la que era la W?
What's the one, W?
Radiopolis. Vean
Radiopolis.
quiénes son los conductores
Look at who's managing those radio stations,
de todos esos.
of all of those.
Todos en contra.
All of them against us.
Afortunadamente,
Fortunately,
pues la gente ya no les cree. Hay más conciencia.
But
No se
fortunately,
dejan la gente
people
manipular.
don't believe them anymore. They don't let themselves be manipulated
Por
anymore.
ejemplo, un periodista
I was watching
del
this
Universal,
journalist
Salvador García Soto.
in Universal, Salvador Garcia Soto.
A ver si está su video.
See if we can find his video. And just like that, every day,
No, bueno, ponemos el texto, pero no la imagen, porque es muy fea.
well, we could put the text, but not the
Muy
image.
dolorosa.
It's really painful.
Se los... Adelante.
It says, strong images, discretion is advised, as he was very irresponsible. The exact moment of the execution of a priest, Juan Angulo Fonseca, in Rancho La Soledad in Delegation San Francisco de Asís, in Municipality of Totonilco, Jalisco.
Bueno, saca la imagen.
Well, let's see if we can get the image.
Hoy me llamó la atención.
Today, the attention,
Los informes de seguridad.
my attention was called in that in the information, this was not shown. So yes, it was due to
Familiar,
a family situation,
penosísimo.
shameful,
Pero lo
But-
doy a conocer como
this is given to be known
que fuese
as if it was
un ajusticiamiento.
a justifiable
de una banda.
killing of this gang. And this, of course,
Diario. Afortunadamente la gente ya está más consciente. Que porque le di el
but the people are more noticeable. And why did I give the Aztec Eagle to President of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel?
Unos pseudo
and some supposed sort of left-wing members,
son más conservadores que Claudio X
they're
González.
more conservative than Claudio X González. Claudio is at least progressive type in comparison. And other things, 7 years to who was governor of Veracruz, Duarte. Some Veracruz locations are asking about the ex-political and have promoted constitutional claims against the Constitutional Court to reclaim them. The controversies accuse the state government to not want to pay them since they also have them. And it's solicited that the IRS office is the one that does the separation of monies. And among the complainants, Rafael Lucio, Santia, Tatatila, Tehuacán, Taliscoyan, Chinampa de Gorostiza, Tenampa, Tecolutla, Alto Lucito, Jusique, Teferret, Soledad, y Esompa. And according to the claimants, some of these funds were transferred to the states, has denied being in negligence to pay this. We need your intervention so that they can be returned the resources that are correspondent to them. And finally, I want to take advantage of the Secretary Maria de Sorbores to thank her for the intervention of a closing of some buildings due to corruption and ask her if there are any advancements of the refill, sanitary refill in Minatitlán and Coatzacoalcos. Well, about the first question, we need to see if there are any resolutions of the courts, and this needs to be a compliance, if these funds need to be returned. But the advantage that we have, the guarantee, is that for the first time in a long time, there is a honest government, as Cuitláhuac García is in Veracruz, because the main problem in Veracruz through a long time was the dishonesty of the governors. That was what prevented the advancements of that state. And this really important state of the Republic, well, even more than a state, a republic. But this implied that there was a lot of peoples for such a lesser government and a lot of corruption. So now it's different. Cuitláhuac is an honest man. Nothing to do with the old ones, so that we don't speak of any names or last names. Nothing to do. So if there is this resolution of the court, and it's going to be done, there's no problem. We need to see in what terms it comes in, and we're going to take into account what you're stating. And about the second thing, as we informed in the other conference, we remind you that it's in 3 municipalities, and just yesterday, Governor gave me the information, the decree of creation of public organism, decentralized governments, municipal denominated system of acknowledging of solid residuals. For us, it was really important as a federation because we're working with 3 municipalities, Minatitral, Cochulacan, and Coatzacoalcos. It was really important. It was on Friday, and with this, we're going to be advancing really quick, and we'll have on time, according to the chronogram, that this placement was to close this immediately and reopen with the new organism in place, that we can do the examinations. Consequent continues. And about Vallarta, was the operative made concretely, practically permanently. We are there through the Profepa, because it happens a lot that in the morning we do the closing, and by the afternoon there's entry in the afternoon. So we are there permanently with National Guard doing that work, and we're not going to be taken away, because there's buildings that there was a permit to give those permissions, and they went over those certain floors and the height. They made more. So what's going to happen with those buildings that were not allowed to continue, and they still did it? A lot of situations in environmental, they prefer to say, I'm sorry, than to ask for permission. And that is not valid. And taking advantage of the fact that we're speaking about Veracruz, hopefully that the judges can hear us, because they haven't resolved the tower that they made, that they built in the Veracruz Malecón, in El Centro Historic Center, and the one behind El Faro, Venustiano Carranza, because the agrarian law was signed, and this law was really important, that gives their peasants, their farm workers, rights. And it's really close to where the reform laws were expedited, where Benito Juárez lived for a while, where he signed the reform laws there because of corruption, without a doubt. The permission was given to build this place in the port of the country, the main port of the country. There's this building where, because of influences, the construction was allowed of this tower, and Elena and the state government have not been able. It's not about it being knocked down, but that, it gets shaven off. And they can do that, so it doesn't affect a historical site so important to us. And if there's no response, it's not a warning, not even a warning or a threat, but what we can do in some cases, there's denouncements of getting untouchable governments out. And when any authority, due to corruption or because of influentism, affects public interest. But at least to know the names of the judges that did this, and bring as well, Jesus, you can bring on the next conference, bring pictures so that the entire people in Mexico know of all these things, product of the corruption.
hacer ese
How is this
edificio.
going to be allowed and do this building?
Entonces, no rendirnos.
Point is not to give up.
Una propuesta, ¿no?
I do a proposition.
Los tres se quedan para mañana. No digan que sin lista, ya.
And but that we don't have a list. So you three are ready for tomorrow.
No, afecta.
There's
No
no
afecten nada.
effectiveness,
Seguimos trabajando.
affection on
Muy
this,
bien.
and we keep working.
Pues nos vemos mañana.
Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Estamos viendo.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Sin lista nada más a los
No
tres.
list, only three. You three. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you so much for your patience. Gracias por su paciencia. Quiero agradecer, and I want to thank all the people that are listening to us, especially Eric Suarez, Michelle Lopez, Arturo Solis, and the company he's working on. He is listening to us all the time, and as well as their workers and his boss, Arturo Solis. Gracias por escucharnos, a ti y a tu compañía. Lorena Saldovar, Daniel Andrade, and Carlos Cordova from Burley, US. Thank you very much. Thank you all for listening, and hope that we can see you tomorrow again in this recording. Don't forget that we have our social networks in the links down below. The link tree, you can find our other channels that we are going to be talking about different situations during today, about entertainment, and of course, Genaro Garcia Luna as well. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Angel Ramirez. Thank you very much. Until tomorrow.